To the white people that are so fucking mad that we don't give a fuck about that Nottoway fucking plantation that was just burned down, fuck you.
The ancestors have spoken. The oldest antebellum style plantation went up in motherfucking flames today. The ancestors shook that motherfucker down to the ground.
Harry Belafonte said a few weeks before Martin Luther King was assassinated, they were meeting to talk about the march in Memphis. He went over to his brother, and according to his words, he said, "Martin, you seem melancholy. What's troubling you?" And Dr. King said, "I fear that I am integrating my people into a burning house." We don't see the fire, but the house is burning. He said to my dear brother Harry Belafonte, we have to be firemen to put the fire out. I said, no, we must let the fire burn. When John baptized Jesus, he said, I baptize you with water, but there's one coming after me that will baptize you with fire. Why fire? Because nothing remains in its present form when fire touches it. America must be burned.
America is at a crossroads, politically, socially, and morally. But make no mistake, what we're witnessing today isn't random chaos. It's a harvest, a reckoning. This nation is reaping what it has sown, century after century of injustice, exploitation, and betrayal. And nowhere is that more evident than in how it has treated freedmen, Black Americans descended from those once enslaved on U.S. soil. After 250 years of slavery and another 100 of Jim Crow, segregation, and redlining, America made promise after promise to freedmen, only to break them every time. 40 acres and a mule, never delivered. Civil rights, watered down. Economic equity, sabotaged at every turn. Generational wealth stolen. Neighborhoods destroyed and identities erased, all while demanding loyalty, labor, and silence. America can no longer hide behind its myths. Take a look at these videos from Black Americans talking about the Nottoway plantation fire.
As a Black person that grew up on a plantation in South Louisiana, it does not shock me at all seeing how sad white people are acting over this Nottoway plantation burning down. I used to ask my mama them same questions I see y'all asking in them different comment sections. Why do white people crave to get married on plantations? Anytime there was a wedding at the plantation, we used to work it. And as soon as I got old enough to tell my mama I didn't want to do that shit no more, I stopped doing that shit. Because anytime I was over there at the big house, whether I was running, hunting, fishing, walking, or either I needed to go over there and take a bath, because the lights would never go out there. No matter Gustav, Katrina, if our lights went out, those lights over there at that plantation house were 100% guaranteed to be on. But anytime I was over there, I felt like somebody was watching me. Sometimes when I would be running over there late in the evening or at night, it would look like figures were standing in the windows, my eyes tearing up even talking about the shit. A bunch of people even got kidnapped over there. I don't know if this was the 70s or the 80s, but I got a lot of stories. But if y'all want to hear more, just let me know.
To the white people that are so fucking mad that we don't give a fuck about that Nottoway fucking plantation that was just burned down, fuck you. First of all, why the fuck would we give a fuck about a plantation that our ancestors were slaved on, murdered, hung, beat, raped, and forced into fucking labor, forced to pick fucking cotton as they hands bleed? Bitch, we don't give a fuck that y'all mad. Let that mother burn. And to all the people that say, oh, it's for the history, we humbly decline. Fuck history, because y'all done played in our face too long. Y'all talking about history when bitch All we see is movies about slavery. This, oh massa, oh come on massa. How many movies was it? Did we even need all them movies? Write it down, take a picture, but we didn't need that plantation to be standing there long anyway. Thanks, Annabelle.
The ancestors have spoken. The oldest antebellum style plantation went up in motherfucking flames today. The ancestors shook that motherfucker down to the ground. No more money will be made off our goddamn backs. No more tours, no more weddings, no more shindigs. A total goddamn loss. The antebellum style plantation was 166 years old. And they thought it would withstand the test of time. It withstood Katrina. It withstood hurricane after hurricane after hurricane until the ancestors said, enough. Today was the goddamn day. The antebellum style Nottoway plantation was located in between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Not anymore. Again, no more money will be made off our goddamn backs. Now run along. And toodaloo.
My opinion, they did not set fire to this place. No. This is the owner right here, Dan Dias. He's a local attorney down there in Natchitoches, Louisiana. You know, this is my area. We used to go where I live down about an hour outside of the city, down to Natchitoches to the lights. You can go up and people hung out in the whole 9 yards, but the history is racist. Everything about this place screams racism. Dan pretty much said he invested everything he had into this, and now it's a total loss. Now, yes, he may have insurance, but y'all got to remember, insurance, sometimes insurance companies don't want to pay you now. You know, he probably tried to rebuild, but not the way he had it. I'd also like to add that this is the mayor of Natchitoches, Louisiana, and he already has faced straight up in his face racism. Yes, there was an event of the swearing in of State Senator Cleo Fields. I know I've met Mr. Fields a couple of times, and Mr. Fields they had a swearing in ceremony for him. The mayor was there, president of Northwestern State University, Genovese or whatever. He pretty much got up to speak, addressed the black man who's the mayor of Natchitoches. You know, where he basically told the black man he had some nerve sitting his ass on the front row when there's white people president. That's Natchitoches for you now. So this fat bastard is right in line with everybody else. Now, fat ass Dan did say that he is not racist. Him and his wife had nothing to do with slavery, and you know they're not in a left wing radical anything, and they don't do. But they also don't want to dwell in the past. Fat bastard is racist, yes. Now look at his ass. He got to wait on the insurance company to see if they're going to approve him for insurance payment. Whatever he tries to do won't work. This place will never have as much visitors as it used to be because now the world is looking at it. Speaking of this racist ass building, these are just some of the rooms that they had there rather. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, ancestors, named after the oppressor's sons. So Mr. Dan can go fuck himself with that shit. Room after room. On top of that, fat ass Dan and his wife planted 11 trees in honor of the slave owners' family members. Yeah. Celebrations out the ass. Let's not even get on the cottages, is what they call them. They want to go back to slavery so bad, but they know their ass ain't gonna make it outside. Don't flag me, TikTok. Don't flag me. Don't talk about some fucking cottages. Hands fat, burly, wide, sitting on his stomach, clogged artery ass motherfucker. Great work, ancestors. Great work.
So I keep getting asked about my thoughts and feelings on the Louisiana plantation burning, and I got to be very clear when I say this. 2025 is the year of 9. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 9. 9 is the year of Oya. Oya is the Orisha that is most commonly known for her serious transformations and changes that she brings. She is also known for hurricanes and great winds, but a lot of people don't realize that Oya is also the keeper, the guardian of the ancestors, the Egun, right? We have to be clear when it comes to this year of 9. This is the ancestors' year. This is the year that the ancestors will return and show who they are and how they really work. Therefore, if you've been practicing your ancestor veneration, if you've been honoring the ancestors and showing respect and reverence for them, you will reap the rewards of the seeds that you have sown. But if you've been disrespecting the ancestors, especially in a way where you are capitalizing on their trauma, you will reap the consequences of the seeds that you have sown. The ancestors will show you who they are in this year of 9. And may everyone be blessed with the ancestral experience that they deserve.
Please help me understand if I'm getting this right, okay? So the largest plantation in New Orleans burned down or like caught on fire. I don't know the state of where it's at right now. And then when the fire department put the fire out, the fire started right back up. And then the Annabelle doll is apparently there, and it's the real doll is in New Orleans right now. Why is the doll in New Orleans? But I mean, it seems like work is getting done. I don't know. I mean, like, please help me understand what's going on. And one more thing. New Orleans is like spiritual capital when it comes to this nation, especially when it comes to like black spirituality, like hoodoo, voodoo, and just, you know, other spiritual practices and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, the Annabelle doll is there. They burning down. The plantation caught on fire. And all of this is going down in New Orleans. We all know how spiritual New Orleans is. They don't play. I'm very intrigued, I'm not gonna lie. So if I got this right, please point me in the direction where I can like look at deep dives. Like, this is very interesting to me.
I keep telling y'all, these spirits that you keep playing with, keep joking about, are not playing with you. So you see that Nottoway plantation just so happened to burn down. A plantation that slaves built. A plantation that's been around since 1859. Just out of the blue, it burned down. Matter of fact, look at this shit. Look at this. So you telling me that just randomly happened? That fire just randomly started? Yeah, okay. You got these people playing around with this Annabelle doll that's on tour. You got people calling on spirits that they're not supposed to be calling on, and look what happened. And let me say this. A lot of people are upset because this house burned down. What about the people that built that plantation? What about the slaves that built that plantation? See, what a lot of people don't understand is in Louisiana, these plantations still exist. We just don't know about them. We just don't hear about them. But they are still there. Which means what? It means those spirits are still there. And it also means that some of those spirits were waiting in the afterlife for that plantation to be gone. Somebody's ancestors risked their life to build that. I'll tell you what I do know. I know for a fact that if you call on something and it hears you, it will definitely come, whether you believe it or not. I took a trip to New Orleans, and let me tell you this. When I took that trip, my spirit didn't feel right. It's a wonderful town. I enjoyed myself, but my spirit didn't feel right. I don't have bad things to say about Louisiana, but what I will say is my spirit felt that something is there. And this right here proves exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all better learn how to leave well enough alone, or you're gonna find yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. I'm out.
Boy, Louisiana on fire right now, huh? First the Annabelle doll pull up, the 11 inmates escape, then you got the Louisiana Nottoway plantation that burned down. All spiritual order. This is divine presence that's taking place. The ancestors are speaking to you, baby. Yeah, now let's get it to it. Because it go deeper than what you picture.
Well, sometimes, when a person's body has been through a lot, the soul is displaced. This doll is a place for the soul to survive until it can move on.
We probably ain't peeping the esoteric messages in this shit. They showed us in Tales from the Hood and a lot of other movies. Everything that you see play out in movies is happening right now, especially them African slave origin movies.
But this doll, it's a way station for lost souls.
Now, in Tales from the Hood, you got the voodoo doll scene. So in 1994, former KKK leader and an openly racist senator from the South sets up office on an old plantation. And this sparks protests for both
his vile past and his defilement, what he was doing on the site. And this was considered a site of massacre against the slave many years prior.
Lonnie, it's disturbing enough that Duke Metger would claim residency here just for the sake of gaining racist votes. But the real slap in the face to the black community is that he chose this house, this former plantation, with its history of racism towards black people, to set up camp.
Which instead of freeing their slaves post-Civil War, the slave owners would hang the slaves from the trees and they would torture them and murder them. Now in the movie, according to a protester named Eli, the souls of those slaves resided on the plantation inside of the dolls. And they were created by a hoodoo witch named Miss Cobbs, the lady that you see in the picture.
Who will make him pay, sir?
The souls! The souls are gonna make him pay! They're gonna make him pay for being here. Miss Cobb was the keeper of the souls. And now there's no peace. There was peace, but there's no peace in the dollhouse now.
The dollhouse?
The dollhouse! They're gonna make him pay the dollhouse!
The truth is, America was not built on freedom. It was built on conquest and white supremacy, a reality it has never fully abandoned. The backlash against so-called critical race theory is not about education. It is about control. From book bans to rewriting school curricula, efforts to suppress history are designed to keep people uninformed and unquestioning. White supremacy is ingrained in American institutions, home, school, religion, and politics. And those who fear history reveal their own guilt. They know that an honest telling of America's past would destroy the illusion of innocence. It happened when the world saw Black Wall Street burn. It happened when the brutality of Jim Crow was exposed. It happened when the Southern strategy was unmasked as a tool of racial control rather than democracy. The systems of oppression never disappeared. They evolved. Slave patrols became modern policing. Redlining became housing discrimination. The plantation became the prison. And through it all, America has attempted to erase its crimes. Native lands were stolen through laws. Black freedmen Americans were denied land and wealth-building opportunities. Immigration policies were designed to maintain a white majority. When black communities thrived, they were targeted by mobs, by bombings, and by policies disguised as justice. It was not enough to take lives. They had to erase entire communities. Highways were built through black neighborhoods. COINTELPRO was used to assassinate black leaders. Confederate statues were erected not in 1865, but during the Civil Rights Movement as a message of intimidation. And still, they expect us to believe in their version of America, one where slavery was just an unfortunate chapter, where the Tuskegee experiment is a footnote, where mass incarceration is an accident. But the truth cannot be erased. The real fear is not history itself. It is the reckoning that comes when people realize they have been lied to. A generation that understands the depth of deception will not trust blindly. And when trust is broken, people begin to question everything. That is what America fears most. Not its past, but the consequences of its lies. And no matter how many books they ban, how many voices they silence, how many distortions they spread, the truth remains. It spreads like fire, igniting minds and demanding accountability. The real question is not whether America will face its past. The question is whether America can survive what it has done. The fight to suppress history is not just about the past, it's about controlling the future. Look at the policies still in place today. Voter suppression laws disproportionately target black communities, just as literacy tests and poll taxes once did. The school-to-prison pipeline funnels black children into a system designed to break them before they can build. Discriminatory banking practices, like higher interest rates for black borrowers, continue the legacy of redlining. These aren't relics of history, they are present-day realities. And when we fight back, they criminalize us. The same government that calls Martin Luther King Jr. a national hero today labeled him the most dangerous man in America when he was alive. The same system that praises the civil rights movement now has laws banning protests that challenge police violence. The same corporations that post Black History Month ads are the ones funding politicians who strip black voting rights. They want us to forget. They want us to believe that history is behind us. But it isn't. Because the forces that upheld slavery, segregation, and racial violence are still at work, just under different names. The past is not dead. It is still shaping the present. And until we confront that truth, history will continue to repeat. The solution to these systemic issues lies in a conscious effort to rebuild Black economic independence, cultural unity, and family structure. Key strategies include: Black Americans must prioritize supporting Black-owned businesses, spending within their own community, creating a sustainable economic cycle similar to those in other racial and ethnic groups. Initiatives such as group economics, cooperative economics, and Black business directories can help redirect resources back into Black communities. Freedmen Black Americans have to get back to strengthening Black families. The Black family unit has historically been a source of strength and resilience. Rebuilding strong familial structures through mentorship, education, and economic support can provide a foundation for generational wealth and stability. Also, teaching future generations on the importance of cultural identity, such as promoting Black history, traditions, and self-determination through community-based institutions, media, and social movements will help reinforce a sense of identity and pride. Last but not least, political and economic advocacy is a must. Freedmen Black Americans must advocate for policies that specifically benefit their community, rather than broadly applied initiatives that dilute their impact. This includes pushing for reparations, land ownership, and economic incentives tailored to descendants of enslaved Black Americans. So yeah, integration was intended to supposedly provide Black Americans with equal opportunities, but in many ways, it disrupted the economic and cultural self-sufficiency of freedmen Black Americans. By prioritizing Black economic empowerment, cultural identity, and family unity, freedmen Black Americans can reclaim their lost progress and build a future of collective prosperity. The time has come to reinvest in our own communities and redefine success on our own terms. The Civil Rights Movement is often hailed as a victory, a moment in history where America finally made good on its promises of equality. But for freedmen, descendants of enslaved Black Americans, it was anything but a victory. In many ways, the movement left us worse off, thanks to a combination of leadership betrayals, failed policies, and deceptive labels that diluted our struggle. One of the biggest failures of the movement was the emergence of Black leaders who prioritized their own political and financial gain over the needs of the freedmen community. Many of these so-called leaders compromised with white institutions in exchange for personal access to wealth and political influence. They embraced superficial integration while ignoring the long-term economic and social impact on Black communities. Rather than pushing for reparations, land ownership, and economic self-sufficiency, they settled for token positions in white-dominated spaces, leaving the masses behind. Affirmative action was another policy that was supposed to uplift Black Americans, but in practice, it disproportionately benefited white women and non-Black immigrants. Instead of addressing the specific injustices faced by freedmen, these policies became a catch-all for any marginalized group, diluting the intended impact. White women became the largest beneficiaries, securing jobs and educational opportunities that should have gone to freedmen. Meanwhile, Black immigrants, who had not suffered from American slavery and segregation, were lumped into the same category as freedmen, further pushing us to the margins. Perhaps the most damaging consequence of the Civil Rights Movement was the introduction of minority and multicultural labels. These terms blurred the lines between the unique struggle of freedmen and the experiences of other racial and ethnic groups. Policies that were meant to address the oppression of freedmen were opened up to anyone who wasn't white, turning the fight for Black justice into a general diversity initiative. Corporations, universities, and the government all embraced diversity as a way to appear progressive while avoiding direct investments in the freedmen community. The fight for reparations was diluted into broader social justice causes that often left Black Americans without targeted benefits. The result? Our unemployment rates remain high, our wealth gap has barely improved, and the systemic barriers that were supposed to be dismantled still stand firm. One of the most urgent needs in the Black community today is the presence of strong legal minds who can fight for true justice. We need more attorneys and strategists like Thurgood Marshall and Johnnie Cochran, visionaries who understood that real power comes from mastering the legal system and using it to advance the interests of freedmen. We must establish think tanks that bring together legal experts, economists, and policy strategists to create a unified agenda for economic and legal justice. These groups must push for reparations, fair housing policies, and legal protections against discrimination that specifically target the issues facing freedmen. Without a dedicated legal and economic strategy, we will continue to see our demands ignored and our communities left behind. The battle is not just in the streets. It must be fought in the courts, in boardrooms, and in legislative chambers where real change is made. If we are to correct the failures of the civil rights movement, we must first acknowledge them. We must push back against the leaders who sell us out for personal gain. We must rebuild Black economic power by supporting our own businesses and institutions. Most importantly, we must reject blanket policies that treat all minorities the same and demand reparations and policies specifically for freedmen Black Americans. But this is deeper than economics, deeper than politics. This is divine judgment. America is under judgment, not by man, but by God himself. The same God who judged Egypt, who judged Babylon, who judged Rome, is now weighing America in the balance and finding her wanting. America has sown destruction, and now it reaps decline. It has sown arrogance, and now it reaps humiliation. It has sown lies, and now it reaps truth, truth that cannot be hidden anymore. America is a land built on blood, on the sweat and suffering of the people it has enslaved, displaced, and silenced. But tell that truth today, and they call it divisive. They call it unpatriotic. They want you to believe that history is just a collection of dates and figures, stripped of the brutality, the deception, the theft. They tell you the Trail of Tears was just relocation, that the Colfax Massacre, Wilmington Coup and Massacre, Rosewood Massacre, Atlanta Race Massacre, Ocoee Massacre, Tulsa Massacre, Harlem Race Massacres of 1943 and 1964 was just riots, and that Jim Crow was merely a setback. What they refuse to admit is that America was never a nation of freedom. It was a nation of conquest, built on white supremacy, and it has never stopped being one. And that is why they are so desperate to erase the past. You see, history, real history, has power. It reveals the truth of this nation, of what was done and what is still being done. They call it critical race theory today, but it's just the truth, and that's why they fight so hard to bury it. From school boards banning books, to politicians scrubbing slavery from textbooks, to social media platforms silencing voices that dare speak honestly about America's past. White supremacy is culturally ingrained into every aspect of white society, in the home, school, religion, and politics. But tell me, what does it say about a people who fear history? It says they know their hands are bloody, and they are terrified that their children will ask them why. Because the truth would destroy their illusion of innocence. The same way it did when the world saw Black Wall Street burn. The same way it did when Jim Crow's chains were exposed for what they were. The same way it did when the Southern strategy was revealed as a blueprint for racial control, not democracy. But America has always had a strategy. Slave patrols became the police. Redlining became modern real estate steering. The plantation became the prison. And now, they want to act like none of it happened. They want to rewrite history to keep future generations obedient, ignorant, docile. And yet, what they don't understand is that you cannot erase pain. You cannot erase memory. You cannot erase the reality of people who have suffered and endured. This nation made laws to steal land from Native people. The Homestead Act gave free land to whites while barring Black Freedmen Americans from ownership. The Immigration Act of 1924 made sure America remained a white country, closing its doors to those it deemed unfit. And when we, Black Freedmen Americans, dared to build wealth, dared to thrive, they sent mobs, they sent bombs, they sent laws disguised as justice to tear down Black Freedmen Americans' communities. And it wasn't enough for them to unalive us. They had to erase us. They built highways through our neighborhoods, turning communities into ghettos. They passed California Proposition 14 to uphold segregation. They used COINTELPRO to assassinate Black leaders. They used the daughters of Confederates to put Confederate statues in our faces, not in 1865, but during the Civil Rights Movement, as a warning, as a message. And still, they want us to believe in their version of America? An America where slavery was a misunderstanding? Where the Tuskegee experiment was a footnote? Where mass incarceration is just an accident? No, sir. No, ma'am. White supremacy is in the bones of this country, in the schools, the churches, the homes, the politics. It is a disease, and they refuse to cure it. But there is something they should fear more than the truth being known. They should fear what happens when the next generation realizes they have been lied to. What happens when young people of all colors understand that history was stolen from them, that their textbooks were propaganda, that their teachers were ordered to deceive. A people who know they have been deceived do not trust, and a people who do not trust begin to question everything. That is what America fears most, not the past, but the reckoning it demands. And that reckoning is coming. No matter how many books they ban, no matter how many voices they silence, no matter how many lies they tell, truth is like a flame. It spreads, and once it touches the people, it cannot be extinguished. The question is not whether America will reckon with its past. The question is whether America will survive what it has done. Tell me what you think about this topic. Hope you find the information in this video informative. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks for watching.